We're doing the walking, we're trying to sleep, maybe even lifting weights. But if this one thing hasn't changed, none of that's going to matter. Stick with me and I'll show you what it is, why it matters more than anything else, and how Gen X can turn the corner on our current dismal health outcomes. Now, just a quick disclaimer, I am not a health professional, but I can read research, and I do, because I want you to have access to the same insights. And once we understand the data, we can learn where the path of least resistance lies when it comes to improving our health. Because no matter how many good habits you stack on top, we are what we eat. And the truth is the building blocks in our body, they shouldn't have a brand name stamped on them. Now I'm going to get into some of the findings, and they're shocking and they may stop you in your tracks. And here's the thing, the research studies that I'm going to reference, they're not on boomers or 20-somethings. These are all studies that have been targeted for our age group. They were studies done on us, Gen Xers. And some of them even show that millennials are following right in our footsteps. Now you've got to hear this data, because once you do, I feel like you're going to want to do something about it. Okay, first point that I want to make are the cancer risks in Gen Xers. A study published in Lancet Public Health found that Gen Xers and millennials are more at risk for 17 different types of cancer. I do also want to point out that I will link every one of these studies in the description box below. Additional findings revealed that Gen Xers may face more cancer in their 60s than any other generation before it. We're not just aging, we're entering a time of life where the disease burden is higher than any of us expected. Now, there were plenty of other studies done to try and figure out what's driving these cancer rates to occur so much more. And naturally, they point to modern lifestyle factors and environmental exposures, which include dietary habits, especially the Western diet, sedentary lifestyles, obesity, alcohol use and smoking, and environmental toxins. But here's where I want to zoom in on this. Let's look at that list a little closer, because just at first glance, we can think, oh yeah, all of those things play a role. I need to work on everything on that list in order to be healthier. But I think I can simplify that even a little further. The first one on the list is diet. And truthfully, the rest of them are often connected to that as well. Would our lives be as sedentary as they are if we felt better or had more energy because we were properly nourished? Would obesity be the epidemic that it is if our food looked anything like it did 100 years ago? Alcohol and smoking, those are still things that we intentionally put into our bodies, just like junk food and soda. And yes, environmental toxins, we can't always control those, but we know that super processed and fast foods contain enough of a toxin load on their own. And if we are properly nourished, our body is better able to fight off those environmental toxins as well. A strong, resilient body can ward off those attacks a lot better than an undernourished, underfed, depleted one can. And the second point I want to make is, it's not just cancer, it's everything. What's the one thing that you can do that will improve your life more than anything else? Now let's just keep digging into the data, because cancer is just one of the wake-up calls that Gen X needs to be paying attention to. We're the first generation that was raised on colored cereals, boxed foods, TV dinners, snacks with tons of color coding in their ingredient labels. Foods that didn't exist a century ago are now our default. And the foods that we think taste the best, the sweetest, the saltiest, the ones that are the most addictive, those are the wolves in sheep's clothing. They're cheap, they're easy, and they're everywhere. So what else does research point to besides cancer? We have, of course, type 2 diabetes. Once again, Gen Xers are seeing more type 2 diabetes diagnoses than any other generation previously. And that spike is almost completely based upon rising obesity rates and our dietary choices. And there was also another study done that states that a type 2 diabetes diagnosis before the age of 60 triples your risk of dementia later on. The next one is cardiovascular disease. Heart disease remains the #1 killer of Americans. Studies once again show that we are getting diagnosed with heart disease a lot earlier in life than previous generations. Now, these 3 diseases that I've mentioned, cancer, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, they're 3 of the biggest killers worldwide. And if there is one thing that we can do that will improve our odds, that will drop our risk, that one thing is to improve our diet. Just focus on that one thing. The rest might fix itself. Now, the third point I want to make is how to spot and replace super processed foods. So if our diets of super processed foods, if that's what's wrecking Gen X's health outcomes, how can we spot it? And what can we realistically do about it? Now, I think most of us know how to spot an ultra-processed food. We probably know the things we're eating that fall into that category. If it comes in a box, a bag, or a bottle, and it'll last longer than a year, that's probably a pretty good sign. If the ingredients listed, you can't pronounce them, or if they're ingredients that you wouldn't use to cook with at home, that's another sign. Or if it comes from a place with a drive-through window, or I would even go so far as to say just about any restaurant, that's another bad sign. But the question is what do we do instead? Just start simple. Make one better choice at a time. Just one at a time. I have some rules that I've imposed upon myself. I will only allow myself one sweet treat type item, per week in my grocery list. Whether I want that to be, Frosted Flakes or ice cream or, Nutter Butters. And now, none of those are healthy, and I'm not even trying to say that they are. But the thing is that I don't buy all 3 of those. I don't even buy 2 of them. I pick one of them, and that's the only thing that I'm going to allow myself to have in my grocery list for that week. Some of my favorite breakfast items are eggs or nuts and cheese, berries, oatmeal. Those to me, those are way better than any of the other, junk that they sell for breakfast. I no longer buy store-bought salad dressings. There are so many recipes online, and I have an Italian dressing recipe and a honey mustard recipe that I love better than anything that I can buy in the store. Start with only buying ingredients with 5 ingredients or less. If that's too strict, maybe 7 ingredients or less. Another category that you can work on that's huge are not allowing yourself to bring any beverages that are ready to drink into your house. If you like coffee, brew it yourself. If you like iced tea, the way I do, I brew it myself. I sweeten it the way I want to sweeten it, and I guarantee you it's a lot less sweeter than the ones I'd buy in the store. I make my carbonated water with a soda stream. That alone is a huge step. And remember, it's not about being perfect. Remember the sweet treat that I allow myself to have? I mean, it's about making healthy choices one item at a time, one meal at a time, one day at a time. Giving your body real fuel so that it can fight back against this onslaught of health risks that Gen X is now facing. Now, I know we're living in an alarmist society, and to be honest, a lot of my videos will echo that. But here's the thing, some of us never question. We assume that if it's on the grocery shelf, then it must be safe. That a brand that's been around 150 years, that they would knowingly or unknowingly put anything in their foods to harm us. But we have to stop believing that way. We have to stop. Because the truth is, the only real power we have is minimizing our exposure as much as we can. Because we're not going to escape all of it. Because even our produce, our meat, our eggs, they've all been touched by a toxic overload somewhere along the line. But here's the encouraging and hopeful part, is our bodies are incredibly adaptable. And so are our taste buds. Once you start making some of these healthy choices, some of these changes, you'll start noticing how sickeningly sweet a lot of these products are. You start noticing that there are a lot more flavors out there besides sugar, salt, and fat. Now, if this video helped shift your thinking at all, I hope you'll subscribe and you'll share it with someone else in our generation. Because, Gen X may have gotten the worst of the junk food era, but that doesn't mean we can't turn things around. Now, if you want one more big reason to focus on your health, besides the ones I've mentioned in this video, then check out this video next. The #1 retirement mistake that Gen Xers make. I'll link it right here. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you soon. Bye.